Requirements of a strong car crash case in Indiana. Number one, clear liability. In the perfect world, we would have a police report or we would have witness statements stating that the at-fault driver, the driver that caused the crash, was violating some sort of traffic law, was observed to be following too close, was driving while distracted. But we want, in the perfect world, a witness or a police officer stating, hey, this person did X, and X is the reason why the crash occurred. That's called clear liability, and that is one of the most important requirements for a good car crash case here in the state of Indiana. Number two, we would like substantial damages. Now, substantial damages, what we're talking about is serious injury, not just, oh, I'm a little bit achy, but serious injury. And it sounds terrible, but obviously broken bones, strained neck, back, traumatic brain injury, serious injury as a result of the crash. Serious injury equals serious compensation. So from an attorney perspective, when we see clear liability and we see substantial damages, we know we're on the path to having a very good Indiana car crash case. Now, medical bills, medical records aren't the only consideration for damages. There's lost wages. So someone theoretically could. We've actually had doctors who had smaller type medical damages, but they are off work for a month, and doctors earn a lot of money, particularly emergency room doctors or specialists. And so we have had cases where doctors had, $6,000, $7,000 in medical bills, what we would say smaller type injuries, aches and pains and bruising, soreness, but their lost wages were $30,000 for that month they were off. And then the next month they were back, but they couldn't do the whole thing. So they're diminished a little bit. So we have had cases where smaller medicals, greater wage loss. And so medical records, medical bills, lost wages, those are the big things we see as an attorney. We say, oh man, this is on its way to becoming a big car crash case, because those are pretty important. Number three, causation. There needs to be causation between the injuries and the at-fault driver's conduct. Now, it seems pretty obvious, right? If a driver rear ends another driver and this driver is diagnosed with cancer a week later, well, that's tragic. That's horrible. That's happened. But this driver didn't cause the cancer. That's clear. So in some respects, that's pretty obvious. But in other respects, it's not so obvious. We have situations where someone's in a car crash and they're complaining of back pain. Oh, my back really hurts. It's screaming in pain. But then they go to the doctor a month later. My shoulder is starting to hurt. And the only thing that's happened to me is this car crash. And then you have insurance companies for the at-fault driver. You weren't complaining about shoulder pain when you went to the emergency room after the crash. Well, yeah, it didn't hurt. Compared to my back, it wasn't nearly as bad. But now that I'm in a moment of recovery, it's starting to hurt. And we get back and forth on these things. Another thing is insurance companies love to say is, well, the person was older, so they're going to have greater aches and pains. Mark, you can't expect us to pay for all of that. Well, that is true. People, as they get older, do have greater aches and pains, but they definitely deserve not to have those aches and pains increase because of negligence of somebody who was driving a car and hurt them. So there's lots of back and forth. Some of it's obvious, some of it's not so obvious, but we always fight for our clients. And if our clients tell us that they didn't have this type of pain before, we believe them. And hopefully their doctors, we can establish a medical causation relationship between the aches and pains now that did not exist prior to the car crash. So causation is important, and we need that. In fact, causation is one of the clear elements of a car crash case. And so it's also a very important thing to have for a good car crash case here in the state of Indiana. The fourth requirement is prompt medical treatment. I can't stress enough, if anybody watching this, just watching it because they're interested, or if you've been in an accident and you're wondering, well, should I go to the doctor? Yes. If you've been in a car crash, you owe it to yourself to go to the doctor. Some people, when they get in a car crash, they're hurt immediately. It's very obvious. I'm not doing well. I need to go to the doctor. Some people, the adrenaline's flowing. Oh man, I don't need a doctor. I'm fine. And they start feeling a little bit beat up. If you've been in a car crash, you owe it to yourself to go to the urgent care, talk to your primary care physician. I can email my primary care physician. I've been in an accident. I'm a little shook up. If you start feeling not good. Go as soon as possible. Even waiting a week between the car crash and the first doctor visit, you're going to give the insurance company for the at-fault driver ammunition to say, it's not related. Oh, no, come on, that's not related. You can go to the doctor. No, that's not related. We'll never pay for that. It just makes it hard. In Indiana, the one rule, the one thing an injured person must do if they've been victim of someone else's carelessness is they have to do what they can to get better. That is the one thing they have to do. They have to mitigate their damages. And going to the doctor is the first step to mitigating their damages. And if you delay going to the doctor, you give the insurance company ammunition to say, hey, it's not related. And even if it is, they waited so long, we don't got to pay for that. You've been in a car crash, you owe it to yourself, you owe it to your family, you owe it to your coworkers, whatever, to get checked out, to make sure if something does happen, you can easily look that insurance company in the eye and say, it's related. And right hand in hand with prompt medical treatment is consistent medical treatment. If a doctor tells you to come back in a few weeks, come back in a few weeks. If a doctor tells you to go get some blood work, go get some blood work. Doctor tells you to get an x-ray, go get an x-ray. Doctor tells you to get some physical therapy, go get some physical therapy. If the doctor tells you to go to a specialist, go to a specialist. And then actually, follow up through with appointments. Again, I talk about the email a lot because I'm like blown away. I can email my doctor this My Chart thing. It is so cool. But keep your doctor updated what's going on, any new developments. But consistency in treatment is also required, and that's one of the great things for any good or strong car crash case in the state of Indiana. The next thing is a detailed evidence collection. We want pictures, we want medical records, we want medical bills. We would love to have witness statements. We would love to have so much stuff. And sometimes people are like, well, I got the police report. Police report is a starting point. A lot of times officers put the bare bones type things into the police report because officers have other things to do, but we would love to have anybody else around. So likely if you're watching this video because you've been in a crash, but if you're watching this and you haven't been in a crash, if you're in a crash, call the police, go to the doctor, but also if you see anybody, hey, will you send me your number? Text me real quick. Get the information. We want many witnesses as possible. Take photos on your cell phone. If you can't because your phone's lost or damaged because of the accident, point at someone. Hey, will you take pictures and send these to me real quick? That's two birds, one stone. You got a witness and you have some photos. So you want to try to get records like that. If you can't get photos at the scene, we want to try to get photos as soon as possible after the accident. We've had attorneys and staff drive out the tow yards, wrecking yards, get photos before they're taken away to wherever destroyed cars go. But it's very important to have detailed records of the evidence. That only helps make a car crash case stronger and better here in the state of Indiana. The next sign of a strong car crash case in the state of Indiana is an insurance policy available to pay for the damages. So in Indiana, there's 25, 50, that's called minimum coverage, meaning there's $25,000 per person, maximum $50,000 for a truck full of people. So, somebody hits 3 people, there's only $50,000 and each person can only get 25 tops. So hopefully they weren't hurt too bad. That's very low in the state of Indiana. And if anybody's watching this, I encourage everyone to have at least 100, 300 insurance, because if you have 100, 300 insurance, generally your insurance will step up to the plate and help put money towards making you whole if the person that hit you, caused the damages, does not have enough car insurance to pay for your damages. So, and this is really sad. This happens all the time though. People get hurt through the actions of others. Another car hits them and they're hurt and there's not enough insurance to make them whole. The bills clearly exceed the policy, or the bills plus the pain and suffering plus the wage loss clearly exceed the policy. And those cases are tragic because from an attorney's perspective, we're trying to negotiate the bill. Hey, there's not enough. We're trying to do everything we can to put as much money in the client's pocket, but it's sad because it's never going to be enough, because the reality is $25,000 goes by really quickly. We're talking $6,000 ambulance ride. We're talking a $3,000 emergency room physician with a $2,000 ER hospital bill. Things go up really quickly when there's a car crash, and best case scenario, there's enough insurance to cover the damages. Now, that's usually not a problem if a company vehicle is involved, a truck, some sort of delivery driver, some sort of company vehicle on the road. But we always are trying to find as much insurance coverage as possible because that is a common issue in car crash cases. Those are generally what we're looking for what we would call strong car crash cases here in the state of Indiana. And I'll tell you the truth, I love it when we get all of those, but oftentimes we don't have all of those. Usually we have some of them, and some of them are kind of dicey, but that's okay. Indiana law doesn't require anything to be perfect, I'm in my 40s and I've never had a perfect case, but you don't need a perfect case under the law in the state of Indiana. And even if someone wasn't doing everything they're supposed to be doing, if maybe they were speeding themselves, Indiana has comparative fault that addresses some of these things. So even if you don't feel I don't have all those requirements, Mark, my case doesn't meet all those criteria, that's okay. Give us a call anyway. We'd love to talk to you and figure out a way if we can help you. Now, here at the Marc Lopez Law Firm, we understand people who have been injured in car crashes often experience a great deal of frustration dealing with all the things you have to deal with because a car crash happens and you still got to deal with your normal life. So allow the Marc Lopez Law Firm to turn that frustration into compensation. Give us a call, 317-632-3642. We would love to help you.